This law actually allows fewer Georgians to be eligible for a permit while making it more efficient for those who are eligible to obtain one. There is no proven direct relationship between increases in lawfully carrying weapons and increases in crime. If you recall, at the beginning of 2009, there was a significant increase in weapons purchased due to the fear of a new presidential administration restricting this basic right. Did you know that the law enforcement agencies across this nation also reported a decrease in the number of violent crimes committed during the same period? That's right. The FBI reported in its preliminary semi-annual uniform crime report that crime actually went down in the same period. Georgia laws are meant to deter crimes. Criminals don't care about the law. Lawfully carrying citizens do care about the law, and that's why they would like to have it clarified. We sit down here many times in the Georgia General Assembly and pass laws that are vague so people can take advantage of it. Here's a group of people that want a law clear so they cannot be taken advantage of. Georgia law enforcement officers prevent and stop crime. Laws should not restrict or punish law-abiding citizens because of the actions of a random few. I realize that not everyone will be pleased with this proposed legislation. As I said, I'm committed to working with all interested parties in making the necessary adjustments to have a good, sound, clear piece of legislation. I have reached out to those concerned and will be meeting with them over their questions, their concerns, and suggestions, and making changes to this legislation. The lawmaking process belongs to the people and is an open process, and I intend to uphold that. In summary, this is a clarification of current law. The Common Sense Lawful Carry Act makes sense and achieves sound public policy by clearly defining law-carrying privileges for those who choose to exercise this right, enacting a streamlined process for permitting and regulation, strengthening rights for personal property owners, maintaining strong consistencies for K-12 schools and school functions, and also in government agency offices. And it increases safety for all Georgians. I believe in a proper balance of public safety and private rights. I believe in law enforcement. I believe in personal rights. I believe in punishing those who abuse these rights by violating the law. I also believe that there are 300,000 lawfully carrying citizens who support the same ideals. The people have asked for better clarification so that they can follow the law and that the law can be properly enforced. Thank you, and with that, I will take some questions.
Senator, you said that this is a clarification of the law and that we shouldn't be reading this as an expansion of the areas where people can carry. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what you're saying. But you mentioned, just to name a few, bars, churches, K-12 parking lots as areas that I think what you're saying is where the property owner could make a decision.
The property owner will be the one that will make the decision of whether or not a person could carry onto their property or
and
not.
Aren't folks currently banned from carrying guns into, say, those three areas?
The current law,
Bars, churches, K-12 parking lots?
the current law does.
So isn't that an expansion?
No, because if you understand,
I'm
personal
unclear as to
property,
how, can you explain that? Because I'm a little confused by that.
because the property owner will make that distinction. They have a right to do it. I believe that the government should not. No, listen. If you want me, let me answer the.
Exists, and that's what your law would
Next
do.
question.
No, please let finish.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear. Yeah,
I'm trying to answer the question in that what we're talking about here is personal property rights. We're providing consistency of property rights, personal property rights across the board. We're giving them the same right that other personal property owners have of whether to decide whether they want to let firearms or not to allow firearms on their property. I believe that it's not the government's place to make that decision. Let the property owner make that decision. So if they choose to do it, that is on their accord. We are not, by law, forcing them to have to allow people to carry firearms on their property.
Why is it important to centralize the location of the Secretary of State's office?
In the study committee, one of the things that we heard was the concern about those who may commit a crime after getting a license, and the lack of communication between the counties so that person would have their license taken away. So bringing it under the Secretary of State would allow for a much better database to be able to identify those people and have their license revoked, because those who are carrying do not want people carrying license that shouldn't be carrying them.
Is that something that would, I mean, maybe it's too specific, but how would right now you only have to go to your county seat. I mean, would we have regional offices? Would it be done online?
Yeah, the mechanics
application.
How
I mean,
safe
The
would
mechanics
South
of the
I mean,
Georgia?
would everybody have
Yeah.
to go to Atlanta? I mean,
Well, we would, there's the, clarify your question if you would, because if you're asking about,
Okay,
if you're
I mean,
asking about the
right now you have-
follow-up.
Yeah, right now you have 159 probate
Correct.
locations where you can go to get a concealed carry weapon. I mean, so far as I know, the Secretary of State's office only has postings in Atlanta and Macon. I could be
Okay.
wrong about that, but I mean,
Okay,
it just.
I thought you were following up on his question when we're talking about why centralize it.
Okay, yeah.
The reason why, in hearing from the individuals, is that unless counties talk back and forth to each other about crimes that are
Oh, sure,
committed
sure.
with
No,
those.
I understand that part.
So that way, under the Secretary of State, we've made this effective. We'll be January 1st, 2012, to let the Secretary of State work it a way that would allow all Georgians ease at being able to obtain a license, whether that would be through Atlanta, through mail or online, or through the Macon office.
Okay.
You mentioned government agent,
Hey,
I'm
Tom.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of references, I know, to law-abiding citizens with carry license, but I think you yourself mentioned that people who've been convicted of criminal acts will eventually be allowed to get a carry permit if they've gone so many years without conviction. Does that concern you at all, that people with a criminal background might be able to get a carry permit?
Again, this is what we heard from those individuals at our study committee, and so we've tried to put this in a piece of legislation so we can have that dialogue on what really makes sense. I've requested that this bill go to the Judiciary Committee so we can ensure whether or not the crimes that are committed and being able to have rights restored is appropriate, and that if the time frame is appropriate.
Do you know those current crimes?
Pardon?
Do you know the current crimes that would fall under that list?
That would prohibit you from? Yes, we have tried to delineate certain crimes, and you can go to the legislation and look at the detail, but we've tried to initially saying if you have exhibited uncontrolled aggressive behavior, then you should not be able to get a firearms license.
You mentioned government agency offices. Are you differentiating that between other government offices? I mean, how would it apply, say, to the state capitol?
In the state capitol, what you would be able to do is you would be able to carry, if you had a license, if you were a licensed individual to carry a firearm, you would be able to carry it into the capitol. However, you could not carry into any one of the government agency offices that are located in the capitol. The reason for this clarification is that there are many areas where in a structure you may have a government agency like a driver services center or something like that. And an individual can walk into a shopping mall and not even know that agency is in there. Currently in the law, if you walk into a structure that has a government agency, you've broke the law. With the courts also coming and saying that the parking lot is an extension of the public gatherings, if you have a firearm in your vehicle, you have broke the law unknowingly. What we're trying to do is to get out of the gotcha part of this legislation and get into what really makes sense.
So using the capital example, I would be able to carry concealed in the hallways and say committee rooms, but if I walked into the Secretary of State's office or Lieutenant Governor's office or the Governor's office, that would be.
Or either one of the chambers while they were in session.
Okay.
Again, you have to have a license to carry a firearm. This does not in any way let anyone carry a firearm into the Capitol or any government agency.
Senator, why exempt government agencies at all?
Sorry?
If I have the right to carry as a licensed holder into other public places, why not in the most public place of all, which is a government office funded by the taxpayers?
Again, this is a product of a study committee, and in hearing what people have tried to say of a place to start, that is where the majority of the people tried to say that they felt like that's where it needed to be, that the firearms needed not to be there. Personally, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Getting back to the mechanics of the Secretary of State issue, so are you going to leave it up to the Secretary of State to decide how they're going to administer, how people go
As everybody here is aware, we have a new Secretary of State. I've not had an opportunity for that Secretary of State to have input into this, and have spoken with him to set up a meeting to make sure that they have plenty of input into this and how they would make that decision to make sure that the effective dates are the appropriate effective
Does the
dates.